The Supreme Court is on their bullshit again. To illustrate what I mean, I am going to use some of my son's basketball figurines. This is LeBron, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to call him Rebecca Slaughter. Rebecca Slaughter, until recently, served as a commissioner on what's called the Federal Trade Commission. And whether you know what that is or not, the point of this story is that it's what's called an independent commission/board. Constitutionally, these members are appointed by the president and then confirmed by the Senate. But once they are in their seats, they can only be removed for cause. This is Tyrese, but for this video, we're going to call him William Humphrey. William Humphrey also used to be a commissioner on the Federal Trade Commission back in 1935 under FDR. FDR had not appointed William Humphrey. He had inherited him from a previous administration. But FDR looked at Humphrey one day and said, you know what? You're benched. In the same way, in 2025, President Trump looked at Rebecca Slaughter, who he had also inherited, and said, you know what? You're benched too. However, back in 1935, the estate of the then deceased Humphrey, Humphrey's executor, sued the federal government for the wrongful termination and therefore the back salary of William Humphrey. A unanimous Supreme Court had found that FDR had wrongfully terminated, without cause, William Humphrey, and therefore his executor won back the lost salary, even though, of course, he could not be reinstated. Fast forward to the year 2025. Rebecca Slaughter looked at William Humphrey and said, I want to be like that too, and sued the federal government for her termination this year. Today were the oral arguments for that case, and it seems very likely that the conservative majority on the Supreme Court wants to overturn Humphrey's executor. However, the Supreme Court also decided to ask and answer a question to itself, a practice that really needs to stop, but that's an entirely different video. The question the Supreme Court is asking its own self is whether courts can reinstate someone wrongfully terminated by the president. This is Shay, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to call him Lisa Cook. Lisa Cook is a governor on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. Earlier this year, Donald Trump tried to fire Lisa Cook from the Federal Reserve Board, but SCOTUS stayed it pending appeal. That appeal happens in January. Their likely decision after today's oral arguments is that they will exempt the Federal Reserve Board, as in the thing that Lisa Cook sits on, from this at-will firing process. Under this line of reasoning, it would be wrong for President Trump to bench Lisa Cook. And these are the legal hijinks that the Supreme Court is currently undertaking. Getting rid of Humphrey's executor as a case law, allowing Rebecca Slaughter to be fired without cause, and then technically not allowing Lisa Cook to be fired without cause, but leaving no recourse for Lisa Cook to reseek her position through the courts if she is indeed fired. In other words, Donald Trump will be left to reenact The Apprentice, his shitty reality TV show from a time when he was just barely famous. I cannot emphasize enough how much the Congress needs to reassert its authority of certiorari and jurisdiction over the Supreme Court. End lecture.